People deluded, I'm back again. Now, this is a bit of a random vid, people, but I've been on a couple coaching courses and I was on the latest one. And the tutor, very good tutor, man, I can't lie. Um, Preston North End head of youth development and youth recruitment. He really is a good tutor. The amount of insight he shared was ridiculous. But one thing that really was my motivation for this conversation is that typically when you hear big academies versus small, it picks up debate. My personal one is, how do you quantify which academy is better? Because if you're a young 8, 9 year old or parent of that or similar ages, it works on both hands. You say smaller club, you're more likely to make the first team, get noticed, have more of an opportunity to grow because the big teams are bringing in the best players from abroad and locally constantly, so you have more of a chance. But there's also a flip side to that, because I've seen it at lower league academies. They're developing players just to make profit on them, or actually to sell them before they even got to under 16s level. So is it really feasible for you to make first team? The training standards aren't necessarily, many exceptions to the rules, but at times it's not really at the same level. So with the training not really being levels, and you obviously, if you're a Cat 3 club within, or just to make an example, Cat 3 do play against Cat 1, but if you're Cat 3 and below, if that's even possible, more often than not you're playing similar development ages. So if you're a standout prospect, like you typically see when people leave the likes of Luton to join Arsenal or Chelsea, you risk stagnating because you're kind of a big fish in a small pond, versus when you go to a big team, you know it's going to be cutthroat, you're going to get released. And many of these players like Rashford and Iwobi, Arsenal and United regulars, were once upon a time on the verge of being released from their respective clubs. So it's really cutthroat. You're essentially just cattle. You're just one of many. You're not essentially, it's not really, there is a personal touch, but they don't really care about you like that because you're just one of many. But there's also the flip side of that. Crabs of the barrel mentality. Would Jadon Sancho be as good as, if he stayed at Watford, would he be as good as he is now than when he went City? Because he's playing Watford, forgive me, they're bringing in good players, but City are bringing in the best young players from around the world. And again, big fish in a small pond. At Watford, he's banging it. At City, he was banging it too, and he was a great player, but you're just one of many, so you need to stand out. So you need to raise your competition. There's competition for places, there's better drills. All of that can make you a better player, so when you develop and possibly move on, you can have a career. We know the catch-22 of that is you don't ultimately get experience and stuff like that. But by the same logic, smaller clubs, or not even smaller clubs, we was talking about development. Now, anyone can see the next Lionel Messi and things like that, but we all know there's different factors in developing: environment, social, and also development in terms of physicality. Some people that are developed physically aren't necessarily developed mentally to step up into academy football or a bigger level. Some people that have the right decisions but aren't physically strong enough are the best examples. And you never really see them at smaller clubs. I'd say Davy Brooks is probably the exception to the rule. He was taken in by Sheffield United, and he was part of the youth side, but they actually had a number of bespoke training sessions and bespoke fixtures to help him develop physically and to give him games he's needed. A lot of I'm not going to say the team that the man manages, but or is in charge of, but they don't have an under 18 side. They have an under no, they don't have under 23. Sorry, they have under 18s and first team, which a lot of teams don't. So if we look at that, if you're a scholar and you hit under 18s, and the next gap is the first team, because there's obviously some people probably go out on loan, but there's no under 23s. If you're not pushing in to look like you can start for the first team or make headwinds, the game's going to leave you because they don't have an under 23, and smaller clubs have a small budget, so they might let you go. So if you imagine, if you're a young baller who's sick but you're not there physically, it could be an issue. I say this because you look at John Stones, he's gone on to play for Manchester City in England. At one point, for Barnsley, I believe, he was playing 2 years below because of physical development. Luke Shaw and Oxlade-Chamberlain, similar stories as well. If we look at Scott McTominay, when he made his debut for United, he was going through a growth period, and he grew dramatically in a short space of time. But he couldn't play much football, and he missed a couple of a season, and definitely a season and a bit, from not playing football. But Man United stood there and said, we're going to wait on him physically, which they did. If he was they've got under 23s and they've got money, so they can afford to do that. If you're a smaller club which doesn't have as much resources, which needs players for first team level now, and can't really wait on players, Scott McTominay might not be a footballer, or he could be just aimlessly trying at teams because he could have been cut loose. You look at Joe Willock as well. Joe Willock's always been a technically messed footballer and has always been a baller. But you've seen him, he had issues growing. He had, and if I remember rightly, Bob Arbour, a person I spoke to, he said the club is just waiting on Joe Willock physically, which is true because he's playing. He had 1 foot longer than the other, which is nothing he can do. He just had to wait till he's finished growing, or one's caught up with the other, and it was frustrating because when he was able to play, when injury wasn't ruling him out, he wasn't able to play to his best of abilities. Now Arsenal waited for him, similar to United and Scott McTominay, but if that's at another team, he might have been cut loose. Do you see what I'm saying, people? There's a couple other examples here and there as well, but it's just funny, like how I always find it funny how development works, because it just shows you that what I say is what I personally believe is no develop. You can't cast a whole ring over a bunch of players. Everyone's development's different. Some people are developing physically better than others, and things like that. And it got me thinking. If you was a young lad, or you are a parent of a young lad, or whatever, that's probably 12 to 15, 16 years of age, who's a baller and could have a future within the game, but is probably a year or two behind his peers physically, and he's playing for a team that doesn't have under 18s or doesn't have under 23s or doesn't have the patience or resources to wait physically, what would happen? So does it? I guess I don't even know what I'm asking. I'm just really just offering thoughts out loud. But how do you quantify which team is a better team for the others? Because normally, if you're thinking of first team chances, a smaller team would provide that. But then you're looking at bigger teams, it's more of a care on their personal development. Now, I'm not saying that all big teams do this and don't cut people loose, and I'm not saying all small teams don't do similar things which the big teams have done. I just find it fascinating because it's crazy, man. It just shows you have to wait on players, and this is what I tell a lot of people, even at first team level, when you lot see me scout a lot of players and whatnot. There's several reasons for them. You need to kind of wait, and that's one thing I like about players or analysis of players or scouting, because you're never right. You're always proved wrong, and players have unique, different pathways and things like that, and things like this quantify why that happens. And yeah, I ain't got nothing more to add, but I thought I would just share this, to be honest with you. I actually did this or writ up some notes. I would have had better examples, but I've lost it. But it's one of them vids I felt I wanted to do, or feel the urge to do. So yeah, on that note though, people, I'm gonna kick out of here though. So subscribe, follow on all my socials, get in the comments and do the rest. People, deluded.